buying. So we need this. We need these aggressive market participants to interact with these levels of liquidity, these orders on the book, in order to move the market. And sometimes that's why you can get a bullish book like this, still orders higher, but you don't get the participation coming in once you get to that level. And then you start to fade off and see some selling. And then eventually, like kind of this area of consolidation right through here. Get in back to that, we found our buyer again. So our buyer comes in off that level, and we get that buyer again. So, kind of what you'd expect. This is a very strong trending day, and we're getting that continuation off here with a lot of nice buying. So, Ravi, life gives you enough blue balls already. We're going to get kicked off YouTube. Let's see. Matthew, Nathan, through hours and hours of Oracle. Heat map, Sahar.
Nathan, I don't know how you get
really good news. The order map is like up there. I can go in a lot of cool places.
So who you are?
No, that's members. Members of the Lambo and Garbage Truck.
That we got together and cleaned up your chart a little bit. But yeah, this is through hours and hours of testing and going through things. So this is one thing I'll be teaching everybody.
Perfect. Yeah.
Change your settings.
Looking forward to having Trading Terminal. Yeah.
PBR.
Right. Small space on a level 2. You get as support like stacking, reading absorptions like this area here and this area up here. The charts, your level 2, and your timing things. So this is one thing I'll be teaching everybody. Oh yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, man. So how you guys doing today?
Really nice.
Set myself with my camera. Let's see. So how many of you guys in here use Bookmap or some sort of like visual price action order flow? Just to get an idea on how many in here you do. Hey, Trader Alex, how are you? Matthew, Sahar.
Nathan, I don't know how you get the colors on your screen like that. They are so vivid. Mine are so dull.
My special settings. I know we got together. I think that was a few years ago, right? That we got together and cleaned up your chart a little bit. But yeah, this is through hours and hours of testing and going through things. So this is one thing I'll be teaching everybody.
Perfect. Yeah.
Change your settings.
Looking forward to having Trading Terminal. Yeah. All right.
Let's see. I'm seeing how many of you guys do use Bookmap so we can get an idea. Or how many, let's see. Gukak, the Bookmap is a visual order book and price flow chart. It's a software. How I look at it, everybody is pretty familiar with your candlestick charts, your level 2, and your time and sales. Bookmap combines all 3 of those into a visual platform. And most importantly, the biggest feature with Bookmap is the historical heat map and price action. So you have your history of how your orders were flowing, how they were placed on the book. Easier to get an idea if you've got a bearish or bullish book and finding support, like stacking, reading absorptions like this area here and this area up here. And it just provides you with mostly the history, the biggest part, but also the live action order flow. And with the data that Bookmap provides, it's the best data you can get for the market. And you can see all the orders, instead of looking at a really small space on a level 2, you get as much as the book as you want. I mean, you can zoom out almost as far as you want and see, where orders
AAOI.
And we've got a large order right here that really wouldn't show up on a level 2, or, even on futures, it's hard to even get a level 2 and a DOM with all of the orders on the book. But Bookmap's one of the few companies that do offer that. Day one, you see balls and bubbles. Yeah, we had a question last week about how I changed the colors of my balls. So, if you guys weren't here for that, you can go in here to the configuration study and get into your volume dots and change your settings there. And then if you have the full software, you can go into settings, color settings, and if you want blue balls, you can just go in here and select blue. There you go. So a lot of people find, the red and green just a little too much, too distracting. I like it, but you can go in here and change the colors of your balls if you want. Let's see. Toby, use Bookmap. Tony, awesome. So how do you guys like it? Just to get a roundup of what you guys think about it. Because a lot of times talking to most traders, they get intimidated by it. It's just a lot of information on one screen, and then determining what's important for you and what you need to look at. I tell a lot of people, just get used to the book and reading the order book, finding if it's bearish or bullish. We can see right here. So the heat map settings up here go from hot, so red, orange, yellow, to cold, white, and blue. And you think of the hotter colors, your red through yellow, as your large orders on the book. So your hot areas of interest is an easy way to identify that. And then your colder areas of interest are, down here with your white and blue. So you got to understand, market makers, the way they make money is by transactions. It's a business for them, serving customers, getting transactions. So the larger the orders and larger the block of orders and where the orders are, that's really intention of where they want to go, because that's where they're going to make the most money. You can see we've got a pretty strong bullish book still here on NQ and MNQ.
SEZL.
We didn't have much down here at the bottom, so as we faded back off, there wasn't really much to go to, and these orders stayed on. So now we're lifting price. But also, if you think about it, these limit orders here on the book, these are our passive participants, and then these volume dots here, these are our aggressive participants. These are the market orders that occur at those limit orders, and you can see, red dots mean that we had more selling, within that time frame, that aggregated data. The green dots mean we had more buying. So we need this. We need these aggressive market participants to interact with these levels of liquidity, these orders on the book, in order to move the market. And sometimes that's why you can get a bullish book like this, still orders higher, but you don't get the participation coming in once you get to that level. And then you start to fade off and see some selling. And then eventually, like kind of this area of consolidation right through here. Get in back to that, and we found our buyer again. So our buyer comes in off that level, and we get that buyer again. So, kind of what you'd expect. This is a very strong trending day, and we're getting that continuation off here with a lot of nice buying. Let's see. Ravi, life gives you enough blue balls already. We're going to get kicked off YouTube.
XYZ.
Let's see. Matthew, Nathan, the order book coming on Trading Terminal will be the same as Bookmap and includes futures. I don't know all of the exact details yet. It's essentially going to be
PBR.
From scratch order book and order flow, but it's going to give you the visual data. And since Andrews now has these connections and with a lot of market makers and people who dispense out the data, he's using that to its full advantage to get the absolute most out of it. So I'm excited. I haven't even seen it yet, kind of what's being developed and going on. So I'm actually really, really excited to get into it and start seeing, and then presenting it to you guys, and then teaching you how to use it and getting you in this, because I believe this is one of the best edges you can have in the market. Once you get comfortable with the system, learning how to read things, you can't beat it. Let's see. learning 101, you do not understand it fully. So there is, and I teach a Monday webinar in BBT behind the paywall at noon, and I go through live markets with Bookmap. I call it trading with Bookmap, and traders come in and just listen to me talk and ask questions, and we get them familiar with it. What we're starting to do, starting next week, the digital version of Bookmap is free. You can go and download that digital version, and you get access to crypto for free, live crypto data. And so we're going to start in those classes, we're going to start doing just
PCT.
live analysis and going through how to set up the charts and how to get it to look how you want and how to read it so you have it there in front of you. And we're going to start doing it on that Bitcoin because it's free. So if you guys want to do that in here, go download that digital version. And then we can, even go into the BBT website. They have their own link. And go in there, download that digital version, and then we can start talking live. And I can start teaching you guys live on here. We'll just go through Bitcoin kind of and just start to read the price action and go through what's going on. Especially price action events like this absorption. That's really where you need to start and paying attention to price action first, because really everything builds off of absorption. And so once you start to understand that a little bit, and then a little bit more things in price action, it'll all start to come together and you'll start to understand what's going on. See here, we're fading back off this level. We just couldn't get the participation. We've got an algorithm moving up here, throwing some orders in there. Looks like some of them getting filled. Not really much, but we lost that participation getting up into this area. It looks like it might be a little bit of exhaustion back into this area. So we're going to fade back lower, see if we can find this buyer again, and then get that participation to try to run up.
GDDY.
Because it really looks like it's wanting to try to get up here and go run a little bit higher. Although I'm looking on Trace for spot gamma's Trace, and we are starting to lose some structure to the top side there and building some to the downside.
TNDM.
I think I'm going to kind of be
PBR.
upset I missed this trade right there. I was thinking about trying to take this
PBR.
entry, but
Eh.
I'd get a little too distracted if I was trying to take this trade in here and talking to you guys. Let's see. James, I use it so Bookmap is my main resource for entries and trade executions and trade management. I set my
FROG.
price levels during the day, and then I play Camarilla pivots. I play Thor's system, and when it hits my price level or gets to my area, you can see I've got this alert set up here for NQ. We didn't quite get to it. I have another one down here, maybe for continuation if it can get down here, and I'll read the price action. But I had this alert, we just missed it. But that was kind of where I was looking to take my entry rather than right off the cam. I like this spot. So the alert goes off, and then I start looking at the 1 minute chart. The 1 minute chart is where I start first, looking at structure, just the structure of the candles, and also price action. And then I move to Bookmap to look for specific things, footprints of algorithms, because we're trying to trade this Camarilla pivot algorithm and take advantage of it, and looking for specific things like a V-type reversal. This is decent. This is just a pullback though. This isn't really anything aggressive. We're just having a hard time finding buyers and get that participation in. But that's fine. Didn't really get it too much here, but this is kind of what I'm looking for. Let's see, is that 40? Is that 40? Yeah. So these are the footprints I'm looking for. On the break of new lows, I'm looking for that displacement on the candle, but also action like this. You can see how aggressive this seller started to come in. So this isn't just a fade and a push off. This is most likely that algorithm off of that cam. And this is the kind of footprint that they leave. You can see on some of these other ones, not quite as aggressive and strong, but that one really starts to stand out. And these are the kind of things I look for on Bookmap, and then a retest back up into that level. And that's what we got right there. I wanted this up here. If we would have ticked into this area, I would have been more than happy to try to take this trade, but I really wanted it I really wanted it up here. But that's the kind of price action I look for. And it is, it's on the break of these lows, of these swing lows, and you get that big push down, and then we can't cup up, make a lower high, big push down. But that's exactly what I would look for. That's really nice. And a lot of times you'll see it run right into the cam and immediately reject down and be very, very aggressive. That I would like the book structure to build a little bit more on this, but let's see what happens if it gets back up here. Be interesting if it gets back up into this area. Learning one, oh yeah, Toss Book Map. Toss Book Map's great. It's a great place to start if you're just wanting to get into it. It's an amazing deal. So if you live in the US and you want to go open up a Schwab account, you can get Bookmap and data and everything for $40 a month. That's a great deal. You how to get multiple charts like Thor. So with the Toss version, go into the detach tab. It'll have like the little hamburger over off to the right side, just above the chart. If you go in there and detach that, then you can get detached windows in Toss. You just have to detach them off and put them on another screen or put them in another area. And then you can go in there and start changing the ticker that's in there. As long as you don't have the same color code still in there, it'll switch to a different ticker, but that's how you can get multiple charts. Let's see. VV, the digital version is the free version on Bookmap. So if you go to the website, go to bearbulltraders.com. If you go into the links in the partnerships area, there'll be a link in there. Click on that, and then you'll sign up. Signing up's free, doesn't cost you anything. And then you'll have the opportunity to go in there and download the digital version, which gives you free live crypto data. And then you can work with it and just try to get used to it, match it up with some charts, and come in here on Mondays and Fridays, and we'll talk about it and go through everything. Let's see. Oh, Christine, I don't know if you just heard me, but go to the Bear Bull Traders. Actually, let me see. Let me go in here. Let me just put the link in here. It'll be a lot easier. Sign in. Sorry, give me just a second. The silence isn't good, but I'll just make it easier for you guys. Okay. Here we go. Oh, it's actually, theirs is just a sign up upgrade. Hold on. Let me get to something else. There's info on my course that I've been working on. So I actually have a course coming out soon on Trading Terminal that you guys will get to see soon. So I'm pretty excited about that. It should be done this weekend. But here's a link that you can use. I'll have to talk to Andrew about the Bear Bull Traders link. It wasn't working, and they would send it to the right place. So, but you can use that link, and then you'll go in there. If you already have an account, just log in, and then you can go in and download the digital version. If not, you'll just fill out the form.
FSK.
And on there, you can just select the digital version. Let's see. Trader 77, you're gonna get me started again. Can you tell us signs of directional shift if the book? Let's see. Yasim, can you tell us what are the signs of directional shift in the market through Bookmap? Absolutely. So let me see if we have something better than
CHYM.
MES. MES is always good at showing book shifts.
GDDY.
So the biggest thing when you're looking at directional change and just wanting to get in a bias and understand the intention of where we might be going, especially on a strong day like today, looking at the hot areas on the order book and on the heat map. This order block up here, that's big. I mean, there's a lot of orders up here. So there's a lot of potential for the market makers to make money if they can get price up into here. And that's if. They need the participation from the market, from people like us. I mean, this goes for stocks and ETFs and futures. They still need the participation from the market. So they still need people to come in and buy in through these levels in order to make those exchanges. They really want somebody on the other side of that trade. So these sell orders here, these passive participants just patiently waiting for their sell orders, they need buyers to come in. I mean, you can go to a car lot, and just like this, there'd be a ton of cars out there on the lot, but you need the buyers. So you can't move the cars and you can't bring in more cars unless you're selling the ones that you have. So you need the buyers to come in. That's the only way that you're going to get that. So right now, we're dying off on volume a little bit. So we're really struggling just to find any buyers in this area. Not necessarily a large seller or anybody coming in. This is just more a lack of participation, a lack of participation from the aggressive participants, which are the ones that provide these market orders to fill into these limit orders. So we're really just lacking kind of that participation, and we're fading. So we're fading back down. We can't find any buyers up here. So we're fading back down. We're trying to get into these swing low areas and find those buyers. So we're jigging. Thor talked a lot about we're jigging. So we're kind of jigging for that buyer, and then to get the participation, mostly from the retail traders like us to get us into the market. And then you have things like this that you can look. So the book shift on here isn't that great, but book shifts underneath trends are good. Once you have your market orders, these are algorithms. This is a bracketing algorithm that runs around the futures, mostly ES and NQ, but it can mask some of the orders and price. I've gotten used to it on there. So I've gotten used to just reading it. It really doesn't bother me, but let's see. I'm trying to see. I can't really even find a good book shift.
Oh,
here's
hello.
one. This is a pretty decent one. NES. So you can see here on a strong trend with a lot of buying, how large these bubbles are. Let's see if we get these smaller orders out of the way. And as we're structuring up and we're starting to break new highs, some of these orders get moved up the book closer to price. That starts to institute a book shift, and it'll go on both sides. And some of this is an algorithm in there, but some of it is also this aggressive buyer that's pulling these orders to help support price. Yeah, this one's definitely a little bit more of an algorithm. As you see, as we pull back down, the price gets pulled back down. So that's a little bit of that bracketing algo. But a lot of the times you'll see these shifts just continue, and on the break of every new high, the book will shift up underneath it. And as these orders, it starts to fade back into these orders, they should hold. And that buyer should come back in and buy more. So that's one of the things you can look for in a trend change, is whether or not, if these orders are starting getting pulled, that would be worrisome, because you would want these orders to hold if that was an aggressive buyer. Now we're kind of getting a little bit of a book flip on NES, with those orders kind of flipping over from the top side to the downside. We start breaking these lows, we could hit some stops. You want a little bit of a stop run. That's a pretty aggressive sell-off. But it is. I mean, order flow, watching order flow, which Bookmap does the best, is the best way to watch for trends and trend continuations. And that's just watching a lot of times some of these smaller orders. I probably had too many on here. These smaller orders on the book and how they're positioning and coming up underneath price. A lot of times you'll even start to see them stack within this bracket. It almost becomes like a sponge. We got a little bit here. So it almost becomes like a sponge as price falls back down into these orders. Well, see, we're void here, but we have it to the top side. So this would be looking a little bit bearish as this starts stacking in here, a little bit of void. So we don't quite have that protection and support until we get underneath this large order. But we have that stacking and pressure. You can kind of see how the orders are shifting and changing in right over the top price. So that's something, and this order starts to get a little bit bigger, provide resistance. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now we're getting some bullish action down here. And see how those orders start to come in and stack? That starts to get thicker and price is pushing up. Now you want to see these orders moving up and start shifting up the book underneath the price. And then we start getting large green bubbles and dots pushing up through this area because we have that resistance, but this looks like where we want to go. And now we're kind of getting those orders stacking. And as they start to stack and get thicker and price is pushing up, that lets you know we've got somebody there. See, now we're stacking more. We're getting orders pulled from lower and added higher. So this is looking more bullish now. We may have found that buyer putting in this nice trend right here. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. I still want it to get up here. So either up here or down here. Let's see. Catch up with all the questions. I think I'm a little bit behind.
PBR.
The like button. I don't know if Brian's still in here. Brian can come back on with me if you're still in here, Brian. For Canadians, you would have to get the full software. So you have a subscription for the software, and then you'll have to get subscription for the data. So for futures, bookmap data, it's not too bad. Like just a subscription for bookmap data. I think I pay like $79 a month and I get all the exchanges. And then if you're trading stocks, you'll need to get the DX feed. And I believe for NASDAQ and Edge, that's like $120 a month. So you do have that, but this is the best data that you can get. Bookmap makes sure that they provide you with the best data you can get. So you have as much of the book as possible to look at. And if you look at a level 2, a lot of times, especially on stocks, you look at a level 2 and then you look at Bookmap's chart, the orders are completely different. Bookmap will show so many more, even areas where the stock shows 0 and that order's hidden, Bookmap will show the actual shares that are available there. CV, what are the scenarios in which Bookmap has been helpful in your trading? It's just learning how to read. I struggle to keep up with the level 2 and the fast moving level 2, but I was really good at reading charts and finding levels and reading time and sales. But I just couldn't track the level 2. So Thor started to use Bookmap in order to get a book on futures because he started to trade futures a lot more. And once I saw him using that, like it just opened my eyes, and I immediately went and just got the Schwab version because I already had Schwab, and so I just downloaded the Thinkorswim. And to me, I was able to see everything that I was missing before, like the order book and reading the order book. And so for me, it was eye-opening. It completely changed my trading. And I find it fascinating. I mean, I really geek out on it, and looking at price action and looking at the order flow. I think it's just fantastic. I think it's fascinating. Even if I'm not in a trade, I gotta be careful because I will get way too into just watching it all day and looking for things and learning things. And I do a lot of screen recording, which will cut down the learning curve for Bookmap for you a ton. Is do some screen recordings and go over some trades and just rewatch them. I go back and rewatch them in slow-mo. I go back and speed them up and rewatch them. And I just seeing things. Once you start to learn exactly what you're seeing, like starting with absorption, learning when to look for absorption, finding out what it looks like, and then finding out how to trade it, then everything else will just start from there. And then the heat map, with just understanding where the large orders are and where the intention is to go, that's a great place to start. And then you can really get into understanding price action, like stacking, order flow, order movement. Let's see, order shifts up the book, and knowing what those mean and how they can affect like your trade or how they can help and support your trade. And it just, I don't know, I love it. I don't work really directly with the company. I'm part of their Bookmap Academy, and I work for Bear Bull Traders, and my focus is on Bookmap, and I feel like I'm one of the top experts on it, on just reading it and reading the price action on it and understanding just exactly what's going on. So I scroll up and then it skips some for me. DB, how are you reading the current action in Bookmap? Looks like there's a topside ladder with 3-tiered orders. Move back to the top side for short term. To me, with this price action, how strong it's been today, yeah, it seems to me like this is where we want to get. Like these are where all the orders are. I mean, we're kind of devoid of orders to the downside. We're starting to get some structure. This needs to fill in more. But really, we have this large order block up here.
GDDY.
And that's where we've been headed all day. We broke through this large order block. And you can see how aggressive that buying got. But that's what we're going to need, this and this type of buying to get through here. And you can see we're just not getting it. We're just getting into this area. And it doesn't even really look like we have a strong seller at that area. It just looks like we're just not getting the same participation. And we're getting close to lunch, so a lot of people are checking out. And, you know, it may be after lunch before we do. We may just chop around in this area, you know, and trying to trade in this choppy area. This is the stuff that'll kill your account and your profits. We need to get out of this consolidation area.
FSK.
And break over, come back, retest, and break out. Or if we get in here and I start to see some strong selling coming back in here, that might be a good place to take the trade. Or I put this marker under here because it's out of this consolidation. And, you know, maybe I'll look for a long there. And just start paying it a little bit more attention. It wouldn't be a cam play. This would just be a long scout. It'd be near R3. But if I'm starting to see some buying. The other issue, we've got to break at least underneath this low and possibly underneath this low, and then come back and retest and find a strong seller in that area. But yeah, stay out of this. Just stay out of this area altogether. Until we get out of one side, we come back and retest on low volume and then start to move on higher volume. That's kind of when you want to start to look at a trade through here. Oh, my link didn't post. I'm showing it on my side. Let me see and try. I'll try it one more time and see if it
ARLO.
posted up. So, see, Brian, check out their website. DB, or do you read these orders as sellers stopping price action? I read this as as loss of participation from buyers. You know, we got back into this high. We had some strong buying there, but our volume overall is deviating. It's really dropping off, getting close to lunch, kind of what you would expect. But the volume dropping off overall, like not a ton.
FSK.
You know, here on this large candle, we got some volume, but that's because we hit some stops off this low. If we hit stops off this, we could go on a stop run. We could start to see some volatility because this buyer would need to come back in and then push through this low, and we could really start to hit a stop run. So what that would be is anybody buying in here that is bought in here, their stops are going to be at these lows. The market knows that. So, and once those are triggered, those become market orders. So those are going to be market sell orders. So you can really move through price quickly because you're triggering so many stops. So that participation, they're basically forcing it by stopping everybody out. So they're forcing that participation into the market by doing that. Yeah, Brian, it's been a lot of negative delta on ES all day. So that's a good reason why we've been squeezing up. We're getting into some big negative delta now and starting to lose that structure. I know you guys were here on Tuesday. And so this is kind of what we're talking about, you know, looking at the spot gamma heat map for trace, getting into this area. This would be some selling pressure if we start to break. You know, we have this interest in here, got some negative gamma and through this area. We could get into some positive gamma and possibly some buying support, but we're really getting into selling pressure if we start to move a lot lower. And then here's our gamma lens. So this red,
AVPT.
This red means negative gamma. If you remember from JT talking, that means more volatility. Price can move a lot faster through areas where we get the positive gamma. In this, Brit calls blue, I call purple, is an area where we start to chop because the dealers are going to start moving against the market. Market buys are going to sell the hedge. Market sells are going to buy a hedge. But in this case, through this negative gamma, they're going to move with the market. So we won't have quite as much chop, more volatility. And then charm pressures. This is a good time of day to look at charm pressure. We got a lot of nodes. I mean, this one looks pretty interesting down here, but this one looks even more interesting, this node up here. But yeah, I keep an eye on it just to kind of see what kind of waters we're in. Smooth waters, rough waters, upstream, downstream. So why did they show the orders and not hiding it? So there will be some orders hidden on Bookmap, but they just have more of the exchange data to give out because they pay a lot of money for it. And so they do get some level 3 data as well, especially on futures. You can get some level 3 data, which includes the stops. So you can actually have that liquidity of that stop area and what's there. You can get that. Okay, here's the stop run. Now it's speeding up. You see how we're just flowing, we're speeding into it. So there we hit a bunch of stops. You can tell by the volume we're getting. Now we're extending. So we break this low, this should happen again. So we're getting into stops. People are getting liquidated and stopping out right now at the moment. We have some stacking coming on right there, but this could get really ugly if we get here. And now I'm getting FOMO. We're not trying to get into this trade.
FSK.
ES set up nice too, but I didn't take that one either. So yeah, we're trying to hold here. Somebody's trying to come back in and buy off at this level, protect their position, but
WWW.
yeah, there's stops, there's stops,
KRMN.
and we're looking at the volume. That's how you can tell. We didn't have a ton of orders down there. We picked up volume because we started stopping people out. Let's see. Jesse, the algo is horrible on the ES. I know, and I know that Bookmap has. So here's a little bit of a book flip too. Bruce from Bookmap and I have different definitions for Bookmap, or for a book flip. By the way, this is just what I call it, just because that's what it looks like for me. You can see we hit this low, started stopping people out. We cleared that right up the same line of the book. We liquidated those, and now we're starting to build that structure lower. So this is what I would call a book flip. Our book now looks the same as it did to the upside, to the downside. Now we're starting to lose that bullish structure and starting to gain that sell side structure. But yeah, back to ES, the algo they do have is the Trader Map Lite, and it can help take up some of this bracketing algo. But for me, it also takes off some of the smaller orders on the book that I like to read for order flow. So I just got used to having it there and looking back on my chart and finding out where that liquidity was and where it held, and just kind of looking around the algo. I've just gotten pretty good at that. Now we're testing. Here it comes. Let's see. Then it liquidates some more. So if it's going to do it, we need to start seeing some big green bubbles like this. Some big green dots, and we're not seeing those. So here we go.
PCT.
And this low, and then this low right here. There it is. So there's some stops. There's some liquidation. Let's see if this volume starts picking up now. So we would need a big institutional buyer to come in now to hold this price, because we're hitting stops. We're going on the stop run, and you can see. But look how small
PBR.
our green dots are compared to our red, because we're filling sell orders now. We're forcing participation into the market. So, yeah, I know. And Oscar, it was struggling with prior day high, and I did like that area, but there were some imbalances and fair value gaps up here in larger time frames. That's why I wanted it to get up there. I was wanting to see if we could get some exhaustion into that area, and that would have been beautiful. And then just for the move down, but yeah, I'm getting a little bit of FOMO by missing this one. But it really didn't come up and give me like that great of a test. So I don't, it didn't fit. It didn't fit perfectly for me, especially for the entry model. Let's see.